My name is Eleanor Vance. I'm 34, and the last time my family saw me, I was supposedly washing out of basic training with nothing but shame and a bus ticket home. The mahogany conference table at Sterling and Associates gleamed under the fluorescent lights, reflecting the faces of my extended family as they waited for my grandmother's will to be read. I sat in the back corner, ignored as always, watching my cousin Serena hold court at the head of the table. She wore her success like armor. The Cartier watch, the tailored Armani suit, the practiced smile that had charmed her way through Harvard Law and into partnership at one of DC's most prestigious firms. I'm sure Grandma June left the estate to someone who actually made something of themselves, Serena said, her voice carrying that familiar edge of superiority. She glanced around the room, her eyes landing on me for just a moment before sliding away dismissively. Not everyone can handle the pressure of real responsibility. My Aunt Beth nodded approvingly. Serena's always been the golden child. Even at 8 years old, she was reading legal briefs while Eleanor was playing in the dirt with toy soldiers. The lawyer, Mr. Sterling himself, shuffled through his papers with the gravity of a man who delivered countless family-shattering news over 4 decades. My Uncle Robert drummed his fingers impatiently on the table, already calculating his share. My mother sat rigid in her chair, her lips pressed into that thin line that meant she was preparing to be disappointed in me again. I remembered the last family gathering 3 years ago, my cousin's engagement party. I'd been on leave, finally, after 18 months deployed in places I still couldn't talk about. But when I walked into that country club ballroom, I wasn't Lieutenant Colonel Eleanor Vance. I was just Ellie, the family disappointment who'd tried the military thing and never amounted to much. Still playing soldier, I see, Serena had said that night, her engagement ring catching the light as she gestured dismissively. When are you going to get a real job? Something that actually matters. Her fiancé, a junior congressman with political ambitions, had laughed. The military is fine for some people, but it's not exactly a career path for someone with real potential. I'd said nothing then, just smiled politely and excused myself to the bathroom, where I spent 5 minutes staring at my reflection, wondering if they were right. Wondering if I'd wasted the best years of my life serving a country that didn't seem to value what I'd sacrificed for it. My mother had found me there. Sweetheart, it's not too late to go back to school. Serena could probably get you an internship at her firm. Nothing fancy, but filing papers is honest work. Filing papers, after leading a joint task force through the mountains of Afghanistan, after coordinating intelligence operations that saved American lives, after earning stars and commendations that my family would never understand because I could never tell them what I'd really done. Mrs. Vance, Mr. Sterling's voice pulled me back to the present. Are you listening? Sorry, I said, straightening in my chair. Please continue. He cleared his throat and resumed reading. To my beloved granddaughter Serena, who has always made the family proud with her legal career, I leave my collection of first edition law books and my grandmother's pearl necklace. Serena preened, accepting the congratulations from the family with practiced grace. To my grandson Robert Jr., I leave my late husband's fishing cabin in Montana. More murmurs of approval. To my daughter Beth, I leave my antique jewelry collection, excluding the pieces already specified. My aunt smiled tightly, clearly hoping for more. And to my granddaughter Eleanor. Mr. Sterling paused, his eyebrows rising as he read ahead silently. To Eleanor, who I always knew would find her true calling, even when others couldn't see it, I leave the remainder of my estate, including the family home, all remaining assets, and my complete trust in her judgment. The silence that followed was deafening. That can't be right, Serena said, her voice sharp. Eleanor doesn't even have a steady job. She's been playing army for 15 years with nothing to show for it. Uncle Robert added, if that. She can't possibly manage an estate worth millions. My mother's face had gone pale. Mr. Sterling, surely there's been a mistake. Eleanor's, well, she's never been the responsible one. I felt the familiar burn of humiliation rise in my chest. The same feeling I'd carried through childhood, through family dinners where my achievements were dismissed, through phone calls where my mother would sigh and ask when I was going to settle down and do something normal. But this time, something was different. This time, I had a choice. Mr. Sterling was looking at me curiously now, his legal mind clearly working. Miss Vance, before we proceed, I do need to verify your current employment status for tax purposes. The estate planning requires specific documentation based on your income level. Serena leaned forward eagerly. She's enlisted military, probably makes less than my secretary. Actually, I said quietly, reaching into my briefcase. I think this might clear things up. I placed my military ID on the table, face up. Mr. Sterling picked it up, his eyes widening as he read. He looked at me, then back at the ID, then at me again. General Vance, he said, his voice suddenly formal. I apologize. I didn't realize. Your grandmother mentioned you were in the service, but she never specified your rank. The word general hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. That's impossible, Serena stammered. She was a private or something. She washed out of basic training. I never washed out of basic training, I said calmly. I was selected for officer candidate school after 2 weeks. I graduated top of my class from West Point, earned my master's degree from the War College, and spent the last 15 years serving my country in ways I still can't fully discuss. My mother's mouth was opening and closing like a fish out of water. But you said, when you called, you said you were having a hard time. I said I was having a hard time. I agreed. Leading a classified operation in hostile territory tends to be challenging, as does being promoted to brigadier general at 31, making me one of the youngest flag officers in the Army. Uncle Robert was staring at me like I'd sprouted wings. But your car, you drive that old Honda. It's practical, I said with a shrug. I prefer to invest my money rather than flash it around. My salary is quite comfortable, actually. Base pay for a 2-star general is around $180,000 annually, not including combat pay, housing allowances, and other benefits. Serena looked like she was going to be sick. 2-star? You mean your Major General Eleanor Vance? I confirmed. Currently serving as Deputy Commanding General of Joint Special Operations Command. I report directly to the Secretary of Defense. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. I watched my family's faces cycle through confusion, disbelief, and finally, dawning comprehension of just how badly they'd misjudged me. The President knows who you are, Serena whispered. We've met several times, I said. He pinned my 2nd star on personally last month. Mr. Sterling cleared his throat. Well, this certainly simplifies the tax situation. General Vance, given your clearance level and position, I assume you're quite capable of managing the estate. I believe so, I said. I manage a budget of several $billion and oversee operations across multiple continents. I think I can handle Grandma's property portfolio. My mother finally found her voice. Eleanor, why didn't you ever tell us? I looked at her for a long moment, remembering every dismissive comment, every suggestion that I was wasting my life, every family gathering where I was treated like the failure who couldn't get her act together. You never asked what I actually did, I said simply. You just assumed. We're proud of you, Uncle Robert said quickly, his tone completely different now. We always knew you'd do something important. No, you didn't, I said, not unkindly. You thought I was a washout who made bad choices, and that's okay. It taught me something valuable about who I can count on. I stood up, gathering my papers. Mr. Sterling, please send the estate documents to my office. My aide will handle the details. Your aide? Aunt Beth squeaked. Lieutenant Colonel Morrison. She manages my schedule and correspondence. She's also a Harvard MBA, coincidentally. I looked at Serena. I believe she was a few years ahead of you. As I reached the door, Serena called out desperately. Eleanor, wait. I'm sorry. I never meant. We're family. I turned back to face them all one last time. They looked smaller somehow, diminished by their own assumptions and prejudices. You're right, I said. We are family, which is why I'll make sure Grandma's legacy is handled properly, regardless of how you've treated me, but don't mistake my professionalism for forgiveness. I've learned to tell the difference between people who support me and people who only want to benefit from my success. I walked out of that conference room with my head high, leaving behind 15 years of family disappointment and embracing the truth that my grandmother had seen all along. I was exactly who I was meant to be. The next morning, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Eleanor, sweetheart, I was wondering, maybe we could have lunch? I'd love to hear about your work." "I'll have my aide check my calendar," I said. "But Mom, next time we talk, remember that the person you're speaking to is someone who spent her career protecting this country and everyone in it, including you." 3 weeks later, I was back in Afghanistan leading another operation that would never make the news. But this time, when I looked at my reflection in the makeshift mirror of my command tent, I saw exactly who I'd always been: Major General Eleanor Vance, a woman who'd earned every star on her collar and every ounce of respect she commanded. And for the first time in my life, that was enough.